Everything has changed as we head into week 6 fantasy football. Today I'm bringing you my rest of season rankings. So if you like fantasy football, make sure you hit that like button and you subscribe as we are on the way to 2,000 subscribers. We started off with our rest of season running back rankings and we started off in the S tier. And I got 3 guys here in the S tier. I got Bijan Robinson, I got Christian McCaffrey, and I have Jonathan Taylor. Listen, all these guys have been absolutely electric, and Jonathan Taylor makes his way up here into the A tier. That volume that he's been getting with the Indianapolis Colts has been absolutely insane. Shane Steichen and the way that Daniel Jones and those boys are going up and down the field, it's amazing. Now, we don't do kicker rankings here, but Schrader getting injured definitely hurt my overall swag and a lot of my fantasy football lineups. But these top 3 guys, they're the top 3 guys for me rest of season. Now we move on into the A tier, and I started off with Jahmyr Gibbs. I think you can make the argument that Jahmyr Gibbs should be in the S tier, but absolutely electric. He's got a 25 plus point per game ceiling. Now, David Montgomery has been outscoring him 2 out of the last 3 weeks, but I still believe that the volume that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be getting going into the rest of the season with that receiving upside has him as a strong contender here as my RB4 overall rest of the season. Now, RB5 is going to be Devon A-Chain. Yes, no Tyreek Hill the rest of the season is going to probably hurt the overall efficiency of this Miami Dolphins offense, but that's going to mean a lot more volume for a guy like Devon A-Chain. So I definitely like him here at 5. At number 6, it's going to be Saquon Barkley. As much as it's been a very disappointing season from Saquon Barkley, especially if you drafted him with your pick 2, with your pick 3. But if somehow you got him 105, 106, 107, I still think better days are ahead for Saquon Barkley. So I have him here as in this A tier as player number 6. At player number 7, it's going to be James Cook. And James Cook has been the volume and touchdown monster. A lot of people in the fantasy space were saying, hey, there's no way that he regresses. There's no way that he gets the same amount of touchdowns. That's going to have to go down in 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, that has not happened. James Cook has been absolutely league winning. Now, we kind of move on into this like bottom half of this A tier, and I feel like there maybe could be a mini tier here, but my RB8 overall is going to be Josh Jacobs, purely based on the volume that Josh Jacobs has been getting with the Green Bay Packers. RB9 is going to be Derrick Henry. I understand if you're a Derrick Henry owner, if you're in a Giga league, there's probably a chance that you're out because it's been very, very frustrating with Derrick Henry early on in the season, especially with the Lamar Jackson injury. I'm projecting better days ahead for Derrick Henry, but not like top 5 upside plays for Derrick Henry in my rest of the season rankings. RB10 overall is going to be Ashton Genty. Finally, they let him do his actual stance. He's like the only bright spot in this offense. Have him here as my RB10 overall. And my RB11 is going to be Bucky Irving. Even though Bucky Irving is dealing with that injury out 2 to 3 weeks, I think the upside that you're going to get when he comes back right around that week 9, week 10, especially as we head into those fantasy football playoffs, is going to be 100% valuable. Moving on into my B tier of running backs, we started off with my RB12, and I'm going to go with Javonte Williams for the Dallas Cowboys. RB13 is going to be Breece Hall. RB14, Travis Etienne. RB15, Kyron Williams. RB16, even with the injury rest of the season, I do have Amarian Hampton, even if he's out, like we said, that 3 to 4 weeks on IR. RB17 is going to be Ken Walker. RB18, Cam Scatterbo. RB19, Quinshon Judkins. RB20, Alvin Kamara. RB21, J.K. Dobbins. RB22, Jordan Mason. RB23, Chuba Hubbard. And RB24, Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt. Now, a lot of guys in this tier that you can kind of move in and out of each other. Personally, for me, I think J.K. Dobbins is going to continue to kind of lower down the rankings. I think Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt could potentially continue to rise up in the rankings. I love this tier of running backs. Highly recommend that you get these guys on your team. And then we move on into the C tier, and it's going to be kind of just a wide range of guys here. We're going to start it off. RB25 is going to be Chase Brown. We're hoping that the Joey Flacco being added to this offense is going to help the overall efficiency. Hopefully get Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Chase Brown some more fantasy football points for you on those rosters. RB26 is going to be David Montgomery. David Montgomery, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, has outscored Jahmyr Gibbs 2 of the last 3 weeks. Not saying that that's going to continue, but he definitely does have that overall touchdown upside. RB27 on a pure volume play is going to be Tony Pollard. RB28 is going to be Jaylen Warren. Listen, it's hard for me to push these guys any lower based on the volume that they're getting, but especially Jaylen Warren, there's a potential that Kenneth Gainwell can eat more into those touches and make him a little bit higher rated rest of season. And so I definitely want to just kind of take that into precaution as we are taking a look at overall rest of season rankings. Now, next guy in this tier, it's going to be RB29 is going to be Trevion Henderson. And you can have me bash Trevion Henderson each and every day of the week, especially after this last performance. Literally took Ramondre Stevenson fumbling, Tony Gibson tearing his ACL for him to get any real run. And then they just continue to go back to Ramondre Stevenson. So maybe this is a little bit of a high rest of season rankings update, but I do like Trevion Henderson here. RB30, DeAndre Swift. RB31, RJ Harvey. RB32, Woody Marks. I'd like to push Woody Marks higher, ladies and gentlemen, but I just don't think I can do it. RB33 for me is going to be Rico Dowdle. We saw an absolutely amazing performance in week 5 fantasy football. Now, what are those splits going to look like when Chuba Hubbard comes back? Is Chuba Hubbard going to be the full bell cow? I just think it's a worthy enough place where we could easily see him slide into the B tier if Rico Dowdle can continue this efficiency and maybe even take the job from Chuba Hubbard. Now, RB34 is going to be Trey Benson for the Arizona Cardinals. RB35 is going to be Zach Charbonnet. Maybe Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker shouldn't be ranked this far apart in the rest of the season rankings, but they are here. RB36 for Ramondre Stevenson, the volume's there. I just continue to believe that at some point, Travion Henderson's going to overtake Ramondre, but maybe this is a disrespectful Ramondre Stevenson rest of the season update. RB37, Bashal Tune. RB38, Nick Chubb. RB39 is going to be Aaron Jones. RB40 is going to be Isaiah Pacheco. And then at RB41, we are going to have Mr. Rashard White. Now, moving on to my rest of season wide receiver rankings. We started off in the S tier. Puka Nacua, absolutely legendary season. If you have Puka Nacua, there's a good chance you've won 3, 4, 5 games this season. Amon-Ra St. Brown, also here in the S tier. Justin Jefferson, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. It's kind of hard for me to put any other wide receiver in these rest of season rankings this high because these guys are absolutely elite. They're getting the volume. They're getting the target share. You definitely want to be having these guys on your team if you're hoping to hopefully get any sort of chance at going the distance heading into week 6 fantasy football. Now we move on to the A tier, and this is kind of like a bigger tier for me. We start off the start of the tier with CeeDee Lamb. Understand he's injured. There's a 100% chance that when CeeDee Lamb comes back fully healthy and it proves it, he moves right back into the S tier. We then got Drizzy Drake London. The volume has been there. We're hoping for a little bit more efficiency. We also got the bye week out of the way, so that also helps Drake London rest of the season as you don't have to be missing him for a week. Garrett Wilson, him and Justin Fields are like the only bright spots. I say Justin Fields, a lot of people aren't going to say Justin Fields is a bright spot for the Jets, but Garrett Wilson, it's been a bright spot this season. Nico Collins is getting the volume. Jamar Chase might surprise a lot of people that he's here in the A tier. There's a good chance that when the rest of season rankings, as we move forward, that with the Joey Flacco signing, that Jamar Chase is actually going to be making his way back up the rest of season rankings into the S tier, maybe beginning of A tier. Next guy in this list in the A tier, it's going to be Emeka Egbuka. And maybe this is disrespectful for Emeka Egbuka at this point. I'm a little bit always slower to push people up than to pull them down. And so I think there's a chance that Emeka Egbuka ends up being an S tier level. I mean, he's a league winner at this point. You drafted him in the 6th, 7th round of your fantasy football draft. I just think right here in the A tier feels very appropriate. Rome Odunze, like same thing with Drizzy Drake London, coming off of the bye. Gonna have to see how that connection goes. Maybe he clearly steps into the one. DJ Moore's been performing kind of sneakily good this season, but I think there is a little bit more volume that can be had for Rome Odunze. We move on to the next guy in this tier. It's going to be Devontae Adams. And Devontae Adams is somebody that I traded away early on in the season when we saw a flash in the pan, and it hasn't been a flash in the pan. He's been the clear Robin to Puka Nacua's Batman, but he's getting targets in the end zone. He's getting the red zone scores. I definitely love me some Devontae Adams. Feel like this is appropriate, but kind of the last guy in this tier for me is going to be Jalen Waddle, because there's literally zero competition that he's going up against Miami Dolphins. Understanding that, Tua Tagovailoa was not the best quarterback. Mike McDaniel's also not the other greatest coach, but I think the volume's 100% going to be there from Jalen Waddle. And once we kind of get out of this tier, I just feel like the running backs feel so deep this year, whereas the top end wide receivers feel so few and far in between. Now we move on to the B tier. And here in the B tier, we started off with Tedero McMillan for the Carolina Panthers. I understand this offense hasn't been great. Tedero McMillan, someone you want to be targeting. Cortland Sutton, Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers gets a boost down into the B tier. He's probably going to be an A tier if Lamar Jackson had been playing this whole season, didn't get injured. But we'll have to see with Lamar Jackson coming back. Like I said, this is projecting rest of the season. Does he come back in week 6? Does he come back in week 7? We will have to see. And they have their bye. A.J. Brown, been a disappointing season if you are a A.J. Brown owner, even though the targets have started to get better. I just hope they continue to kind of start to air the ball out more. Next guy's going to be George Pickens. George Pickens has performed like a top 5, top 6 wide receiver without CeeDee Lamb. Where does that kind of jive? Dak Prescott's been playing absolutely out of his mind as an MVP level quarterback. I think this is an appropriate level rating for George Pickens. Michael Pittman Jr., same thing that we talked about with Jonathan Taylor. We love this efficiency, the offense that's absolutely crushing it. Rashee Rice is also here in the B tier. I think Rashee Rice will 100% be ending up in the A tier, probably by week 1 or week 2 of him playing, just based on how I think this Chiefs are so desperate for an X-level wide receiver. Brian Thomas Jr., who's somebody that I would love to put in the A tier, love to put in the S tier. We were so high on Brian Thomas Jr. coming into the season and kind of pooped the bed a little bit, but he looked better in the week 5 game. So we're going to hope that things can continue on. Quentin Johnston, Stephon Diggs looked really good for the New England Patriots, Ricky Pearsall, and then DK Metcalf rounding out this B tier. Now we move on into the C tier. And we started off with these flex starters, wide receiver threes with pretty consistent roles. I go wide receiver 26 is going to be Mike Evans, Mr. 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns. We'll have to see with this major hamstring injury, with him being out for so long. Can he even sniff that? Highly doubtful, but it was a good run while Mike Evans had it. Marvin Harrison Jr. sliding in as well. I think you can make the case based on the last 2 weeks that Marv has the chance to get into the B tier. We just need to see it consistently. I don't like to see the flash in the pan. Like I said, I like to see these guys kind of build off their successes and work their way up the rest of season rankings, considering I don't absolutely love just lowering guys based on really crappy performances, because sometimes it can be a little bit hit or miss week to week. Wide receiver 28 is going to be Keenan Allen. Wide receiver 29, Xavier Worthy. And then wide receiver 30 is Mr. Disappointing Lad McConkey. Now, moving into the C tier, I would say these are guys that are getting some volume, but it's also pretty volatile week to week. We got wide receiver 31 in the C tier. It's going to be Deebo Samuel. When does Scary Terry McLaurin come back? But until then, Deebo Samuel has been the volume monster. I think you could argue that he should be higher. Wide receiver 32, Ja'Cory Myers. Wide receiver 33, Devontae Smith. I would love to push Devontae Smith up higher. I think Devontae Smith is a top 10, top 12 level talent wide receiver in the NFL. He just plays in an offense that absolutely loves to run the ball. Wide receiver 34 is going to be Chris Olave. Wide receiver 35, Juwan Jennings. 36 is going to be Scary Terry. And then wide receiver 37, even though it has been a super disappointing season, I am still riding the J-Mo Williams bandwagon, thinking that at some point he will get a shot. This last week versus the Bengals, though, it wasn't great because literally everyone was scoring besides Jameson Williams. So you do kind of have to put that into perspective. And then we move on into the C tier. And we got wide receiver 38, it's going to be T. Higgins. Wide receiver 39, DJ Moore. And then wide receiver 40 is going to be Jordan Addison. But if you haven't already checked out the 4for4 website, make sure you go over and check out the 4for4 website. There is rankings from John Paulson. There is a start sit tool. There is a lineup tool. Everything you could potentially need to win your fantasy football championship in 2025 is on the 4for4 website. So use code YouTube, get you 25% off of any package rest of season. Some great deals already happening. Want to make sure that you get over there and can absolutely help win your fantasy football league. Now, moving on into our quarterback rest of season rankings, we started off with top tier quarterback number S tier, and we got 4 guys. It's going to be Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels. You can't get any of these guys wrong. Week in and week out, these guys are getting you guys the fantasy football points. Got to feel really good with that safe rushing floor and that elite level consistency. Now we move on to our top A tier talent. And moving on to player number 5, it's going to be Patrick Mahomes. And Patrick Mahomes is rushing a ton more this season, which is helping his overall fantasy football value. Gotta love to see it. My QB6 is going to be Drake May. He's taking the next step. He's looking like a young Josh Allen, helping this New England Patriots offense. There's just a lack of weapons around him at this point. Hunter Henry's balling. Stephon Diggs is taking the next step. We're seeing Ramondre kind of hold down the backfield, even though we want Trevion Henderson. I think there's some better matchups coming down the pike, and Drake May has produced in some harder level matchups this year. My QB7 is going to be Justin Fields. I would love to put Justin Fields a little bit higher because he has been a top 5 quarterback this season. But the thing that we do have to consider is that Justin Fields is not a great real life NFL quarterback. And I know everyone says that. Even though I'm starting him, like, you could argue that he is more valuable at this point than Patrick Mahomes. He's more valuable than a Drake May. The issue is I think at some point this season, they're probably going to look to potentially bench him for Tyrod Taylor. And so just play him if you have him. Probably not this week versus the Denver Broncos, but I think the rest of the season, Justin Fields here as the QB7, that rushing floor is just so safe, even if the garbage time doesn't look great until the garbage time. QB8 is going to be Baker Mayfield. QB9 is going to be Dak Prescott, who's balling his absolute mind out. And then QB10 is going to be Justin Herbert. And I think this tier is very, very, very fluid. I think week to week, you could have Justin Herbert as your QB5. You could have Dak Prescott as your QB5. I just think this is a very talented tier. So hopefully you waited on quarterback this year because there is some very strong set and forget starting quarterback talent here in the A tier. Now we move on to the B tier, and I would call this like the good, reliable tier. We're not, there's not the high end upside, but these guys I have produced. QB11 is going to be Caleb Williams. QB12 is going to be Jordan Love. QB13 is going to be Daniel Jones. QB14 is going to be Matty Boy Stafford. QB15 is going to be Bo Nix. QB16 is going to be Brock Purdy. QB17 is going to be Jared Goff. And moving on to the C tier, and this is where I have QB18 Kyler Murray, QB19 Trevor Lawrence, and QB20 is going to be CJ Stroud. So it's not the most deep, like I said, QB class we've ever seen, but I mean, honestly, you feel pretty good if you have an S or A tier level quarterback. Now we move it on here into the tight ends. And tight ends can be tricky. Tight ends can be pretty fickle. And so I'm hoping that you guys just have Trey McBride. I hope you guys just have Tyler Warren, because if that is your guys' case, then you feel so much better But heading into the S tier, I think there's 3 guys, maybe 2 guys, but I'll say 3. It's going to be Trey McBride, Tyler Warren, and Brock Bowers. If Brock Bowers can recover from this PCL injury, we'll have to see if he plays in week 6, if not playing in week 7. I think these guys are going to be the difference makers in that tight end spot. I got to feel really good if you have one of those guys. We move on to the A tier, and these are going to be the strong tight end ones. We got Jake Ferguson, Tucker Kraft, Samuel Porter, George Kittle, Hunter Henry. If you don't have one of the guys in either A tier or S tier, you're probably streaming. You're probably not feeling good week to week. But in our B tier, we got tight end 9 is going to be Dalton Kincaid. Tight end 10 is going to be Kyle Pitts. Tight end 11 is going to be Travis Kelce. And honestly, Travis Kelce, there's potential that we should maybe put Travis Kelce up in the A tier, maybe even in the beginning of this tier. I'm just kind of considering things at this point. But I think Travis Kelce, the one worry that I have with him rest of the season is how much Rashee Rice is going to eat into his overall target share. My QB 12 is going to be TJ Hawkinson. Tight end 13, Harold Fannin. Tight end 14 is going to be Mason Taylor, who made a big push after this last week. We've been seeing a lot of great production out of Mason Taylor. Tight end 15 is going to be Dallas Goedert. Move on into our C tier. We got Darren Waller. And Darren Waller is somebody that I think, honestly, you could probably start this week. And going forward, Darren Waller is somebody that could easily make himself into the A tier, potentially even S tier if he kind of keeps up what he's doing, which I don't think he's going to keep it up because it's a lot of touchdowns, but there is a lack of pass catchers there for the Miami Dolphins with no Tyreek Hill. We move on. Tight end 17, Zach Ertz. Tight end 18, Mark Andrews. Tight end 19 is going to be David Njoku. And then last guy in this tier is going to be Jawan Johnson. Now, I don't go in depth, but if you guys want my rest of season defensive rankings and kicker rankings, we will put those both right here as well for you. So definitely want to make sure that you're tuning into the channel. We're trying to help you win a fantasy football championship in 2025. So if you are 0-5, if you are 1-4, I don't care. I want you here because we're going to try to help turn this ship around. And if you are absolutely electric 5-0, congratulations. We're going to keep trying to help you win your fantasy football matchups. Appreciate you guys for tuning into this rest of the season rankings video. And we will be back again tomorrow where John Paulson and Addison will be giving us their must-start players heading into week 6 fantasy football. Appreciate you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.